Hi, I'm Doug,
And I'm Yvette.
and your search for a hilarious yet factual podcast is over.
Welcome to Search Complete. Hello and welcome to Search Complete, a podcast where we see what the internet has been searching for by taking the first part of a question and seeing what Google thinks we want to know. But before typing it in, we'll guess how it autocompletes, and you can play along at home. We can have a good laugh at society's expense, then we'll realise we actually want to know the answers.
Our search phrase for this week is it possible to? And I know the first one is definitely going to be, is it possible to lick your own elbow?
Yeah, I think there'll definitely be a few sort of weird body ones that might get the listeners going, testing things out. So I had lick your elbow and also wiggle your ears. I think that is a thing that some people can do, but when I try and do it, my face just does weird expressions and the ears don't move.
Watch, I do it.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of eyebrows, mostly ears.
There we go.
I mean, this is an audio medium, so you could be doing anything. Also, I had put your elbow in your ear because it's not possible.
Right. Maybe not.
Yeah.
It's touching.
Yeah, so when I was about 7 at school, someone said you should never put anything smaller than your own elbow in your ear, and I think it was to try and prevent kids from damaging their ears by shoving cotton buds in the ear canal. But now, looking back, I think it was just so they could laugh at an entire class of kids trying to shove their elbows in their ear. I think maybe there might be that, or maybe sort of, how there's weird Guinness records about body stuff, so maybe some body things.
Or put your foot behind your head or something.
Yeah, some things where some people definitely can do it, but most people it's not possible. Yeah, so also I had stuff like lose weight in a short amount of time. For example, is it possible to lose a stone in 2 weeks or something like that? Because I think a lot of people start out with good intentions, but then sort of small, because they always say you should make small changes.
Yes.
But that can be quite hard to stick to, especially if you're not seeing results straight away. And then all of a sudden it's your beach holiday or your best friend's wedding and you're still as chubby as when you made your New Year's resolution. So you've got to get results and quickly, so you've got to turn to Google.
Well, before you try and do a quick fix, see if it's even possible.
See if it's possible, yeah, otherwise you're just wasting your time.
I had one, is it possible to live forever?
Yeah, I think that might be one.
Or live to 100 or something like that.
I think quite a few people live to 100, but maybe if it was live to 120
50.
Or 150, yeah. I had, is it possible to love 2 people at the same time?
Well, we're getting all Twilight up in here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think probably the searchers will be confused teens who have got multiple crushes on the go, but I mean, there are a lot of people that have polyamorous relationships, which are perfectly valid, so I think, there might be some people who are a bit confused.
Yeah. Another one I had was, is it possible to control your dreams, or lucid dreaming, basically?
Yeah.
Because you kind of hear about it on the fringes of the internet, or people talking about being able to control your dreams, and I think it's something that people would really like to be able to do. Yeah.
Have you ever been able to do that, or been in a dream and been aware that it's a dream?
Not really. I'm not. My dreams are... Very rarely do I even remember my dreams, to be honest. Not a big dream person, but you always seem to remember yours very vividly.
Yeah, and I often... The content of my dreams is often so peculiar that even in the dream, I'm aware that it's a dream, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or sometimes there are settings, places, but I've only been there in dreams, and I, in the dream, will say, oh, this is a dreamscape because I've been there before in another dream. And it's very weird, and often, in a dream, you are all the characters in the dream. Mm-hmm. And so I'll be kind of aware of that. And then, if you're having a conversation in a dream, but you're kind of talking to yourself, so then it flows in a different way. No one says anything unexpected in a dream.
Because you know what's going to happen, because it's your mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm a lucid dreamer, but I feel like, if I researched how to become a lucid dreamer, maybe I could become a lucid dreamer. I don't know.
It takes a lot of training.
Yeah.
Another one I had a little bit more morbid is it possible to OD on paracetamol?
Yeah.
Or Calpol or something?
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to have a lot, wouldn't you? But yeah, I mean, I think it's possible to OD on anything. Everything's got a lethal dose, right? Water.
Lettuce.
Yeah, but it's just a huge amount. And then sort of some things as well, you might just get sick before anything happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's quite interesting. And I had like, is it possible to get pregnant in different ways? Like, is it possible to get pregnant on your period? Is it possible to get pregnant the first time having sex? Or maybe even, is it possible to get pregnant from anal?
Yeah. Or swallowing.
Yeah, I mean, for the very uninitiated.
Same one I had, is it get pregnant while on the pill?
Yeah.
Just from the past results we've had, I feel like a lot of ones are about pregnancy or like female health.
Yeah.
Quite popular search.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like sex education, especially for like teens, is not that good. So there's probably a lot of uncertainty around those sorts of things.
Just watch Sex Education on Netflix.
Yeah, for maximum awkwardness.
Okay, have you got any other thoughts? Because I'm out.
No, I think that's it. Weight loss, love things, getting pregnant, or just weird body stuff.
Weird body things, I think, is likely to be up there. I like that category. Before we go ahead and search, it would be great to see what you guys have or think is going to be the results. So you can send them to us, either email them to us at searchcompletepodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet them at us at SCpodcast_UK. So, on to incognito. Don't want any biased results here. Google.com. What's the phrase again?
Is it possible to?
Is it possible to learn this power? Is that some pop culture reference?
I think it's a Star Wars meme.
I feel like I would know that. I'm literally going to look at it right now. Oh, it is. It's a Star Wars meme. Oh my god, this is embarrassing. Oh, I'm not even going to be able to remove this from the podcast. Is it
possible to
shrink?
Like to, Honey, I Shrunk the Kid style, or just get smaller as you age? That could be interesting to look into.
I mean, you do get smaller as you get older, so maybe people are like, they've hit their 60s and they're like, why am I getting smaller?
Is it even possible? Or maybe it's like the Twits scenario where they keep making the chair taller so that they think that they're getting smaller, and they maybe if the Twits was made nowadays, they'd be Googling, is it possible to shrink? I think, is it possible to not sweat, is quite a good topical one at the moment.
Prince Andrew.
Yeah, I was going to say that's maybe a UK one, but I think that's probably global now.
Funny thing enough is we live quite close to that Pizza Express.
Yeah, the
infamous. To go there though. See if I go in there and I don't sweat.
Is it possible to be allergic to water? I feel like that would be a huge bummer.
I actually remember looking this up before, and there are some people that are allergic to water, but it's only on their skin, so they can drink it. But
if you dribble it or something, then it's that would be a nightmare.
Allergic's like very, we think allergy and we think like swelling, dying, that sort of stuff. It's more like an irritant.
Yeah.
But still,
what
don't get me
about
wrong.
washing?
It would be really hard. They have to be really careful.
Well, we'll probably have to look into that then. Oh, I think you've got a point. Is it possible to live forever?
Boom! In there.
I think a lot of people are afraid of dying, so they probably would want to know the answer to that.
Is it possible to go back in time?
Probably you, when you're feeling embarrassed about not knowing the Star Wars meme.
Yeah, very much.
It might be a bit of a waste of time travel technology, but there we go.
Go back and edit this one. We could just edit it afterwards anyway.
Yeah. Is it possible to lose a stone in a month?
Point to you.
Yeah, one each.
Is it possible to grow taller?
Oh, I could do with that. Get my BMI sorted out. I like how I go for that more than lose a stone in a month.
Yeah.
Just get a bit taller.
Yeah. There's also, is it possible to lose a pound in a day?
That is a lot, isn't it? A pound.
Is that half a kilo in a day? Well, no, you do fluctuate a lot throughout the day. Like you can literally fluctuate plus minus 1 or 2 kilos a day.
Maybe it's for like people who've stepped on the scale and been like, whoa, I've lost a whole pound. Is this even possible?
Yeah.
And they're worried if their scales have malfunctioned.
They realised they had a poop.
Yeah.
Because that's how much a poop weighs.
You are trying to bring poo content back into the show. We had a couple of good episodes without poo.
Episode 2, check it out. And the final one, is it possible to have purple eyes? You think this is a Yennefer?
Or maybe Daenerys. She's got purple eyes in the book.
That's true.
I think it'd be quite cool to have purple eyes, but I don't think anyone's got purple eyes.
Not naturally, anyway.
Maybe if you've got, like, very blue eyes that can look purple in some lights, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know, well, we'll see. Yeah, so give us a minute to have a look into these, and then we'll get back to you with, hopefully, some interesting information about these search results.
And we're back. I have to say, this has been my favourite week so far.
Yes, quite interesting question we posed. Is it possible to?
Very interesting indeed. So I looked into, is it possible to be allergic to water?
Sounds highly inconvenient.
It is, and yes, it is possible to be allergic to water. It is incredibly rare. There's only been around 100 people studied with it.
Ever? Wow. There's been a lot of people ever, so it's very rare.
Yeah. Its scientific name is aquagenic urticaria.
Urticaria?
That sounds much more fancy, yeah. How did you know that?
I think a lot of... Because it's a skin type condition, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of skin type things are something urticaria.
All right. Well, aquagenic urticaria is what it is.
I hope that is how you say it now, otherwise I'm going to seem really smug and stupid at the same time.
Sounds better than the way I said it. Anyway, it's not usually fatal, but as you can imagine, it's extremely inconvenient.
So is it like if water, like from external source, goes on your skin?
So not just external source, it's basically any type of water on your skin.
What, like if you cry?
Crying, sweating, spitting, I guess, but literally any water on your skin. Yeah, rain.
Oh no! How can you wash?
So you have to wash very quickly with cold showers. So your least favourite
that sounds awful.
activity. And you basically have to also avoid watery food.
What,
no
like
watermelons.
Cucumbers.
Yeah.
Can you drink water?
Yes, but only have a little bit. And you got to be careful not to get it on your lips.
Ooh,
so
no.
like pretty much any other allergic reaction, when it touches your skin, you end up with like rashes, hives, inflammation.
I feel like it would be so hard to avoid getting water on
It would be, and I think a natural part of, or a part of that person's life is, it is going to happen. You can treat it with antihistamines, like most allergies, which will help. And you can imagine it's really hard to diagnose. Generally,
yeah, I feel like you'd just constantly be rashy, like all over, and...
But you wouldn't immediately jump to, oh yeah, obviously it's water that I'm allergic to.
Yeah, so do you have it from birth? Is it like a genetic thing?
I didn't come across whether it was a genetic thing. I don't think so. Normally, onset is during puberty.
Okay.
So there was a story about this woman who had it, and you know, normally when you get allergy tests, you have like these drops on your skin of like different substances, and the control is water.
Oh no!
So she found out she was allergic to water because the control gave her the rash.
Every drop gave her a rash, and even the water. Oh god!
And I feel really sorry for these people. Fortunately, it is very rare.
Yeah.
And you can live a somewhat normal life.
Well, but you can't ever sweat or get wet.
Yeah. But it's not a matter of can't, it's more just like limiting your exposure to, really.
Yeah, but it's not like you could go swimming or...
Yeah, swimming would not be a
dance
good
in the rain.
No. That's it. Yes, it is possible to be allergic to water, but you'll know about it if you are.
And it is a huge bummer. Is it possible to shrink? So there's a couple of different directions you could go with this. So the mundane but definitely more relevant phenomenon of shrinking in height as a result of aging. And then there's the more sensational, more cinematic approach with the miniaturization of whole humans, like in Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Rick and Morty.
Ant-Man. But sorry to disappoint, we're going to talk about shrinking with aging. So save those shrink rays for another day. So it's widely discussed that people start getting shorter when they're old, but do you think that's actually true?
Yeah, definitely.
For all people?
Yeah, I think most. Yeah, all.
Yep, so it is true, and you do tend to shrink, and it varies the amount of shrinkage between individuals, but the tendency to become shorter occurs among all races and between both sexes. So how many inches do you think you can lose as you get older?
I don't know. Inches. Maybe 6? It's very hard to judge because I feel like the time that you notice your grandparents are, they're getting older and they're shrinking, it's also the time you're growing the most.
Yeah.
So it's actually really hard to judge. But I'm going to say 6 inches.
Okay, so you're right in saying that it is a gradual process. So people typically lose about half an inch every 10 years
it's not as much
after
as I
age
thought.
40. So
After 40?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So
not that long to go.
Well, some things say after 30 as well.
No, I don't believe that.
But your height loss becomes even more rapid after age 70. Yeah. So you can lose a total of between 1 and 3 inches as you age.
Okay.
So it's up to like 7.5 centimeters.
Okay, I thought it was more than that, to be honest. But...
Yeah, but then maybe your point was right about the growing rate at the same time.
I was probably growing about 6 inches a year.
Yeah. So we've done the men versus women comparison a few times, so I thought I'd carry it on in this episode. Do you think men and women have a difference in height loss?
No, I think women probably shrink more.
Okay, well, yeah, that's actually correct.
But don't be so surprised about it.
I just think it's so unfair, right? Because women tend to be shorter than men anyway.
Yeah, but it's
and
not
then
to
they
your
end up shrinking more.
Not so much to your disadvantage, and also you do live longer.
Yeah, I don't think that's the reason. I think it's to do with, like, estrogen levels and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, men gradually lose an inch between the ages of 30 and 70, whereas women can lose about 2 inches.
So twice as much.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like if I lose 3 inches, then I'll be under 5 foot. That would just be sad. So have you got any ideas about what could cause height loss with aging?
I reckon it's probably just, I don't know, one might be bad posture, or just like, not being able to support yourself upright so well. But I think probably more due to like reduced cell regeneration, which although probably isn't that significant over enough cells, or like enough especially in your bones, is enough to accumulate to a couple of inches.
Yep. So your height is determined by your bone structure, so the like length in your leg bones, in your spine, and in like your skull. But your skull and your leg bones aren't really going to change size.
Okay.
So most of the difference that happens is in your spine. So between the vertebrae, the bones in your spine, there's little discs, and these can dehydrate and compress. So that can reduce the spacing between your vertebrae, and that makes you a little bit shorter.
I guess it makes them more brittle as well.
Yeah, so then there's also like loss of bone density, which can make the actual bones get smaller as well.
Okay.
And then also, like you were saying, with the posture, the aging spine can become more curved. So then obviously if you're not standing up as straight, you're not going to be as tall. And loss of muscle in the torso can contribute to stooped posture as well. Another thing as well, which probably doesn't make a huge difference, but the gradual flattening of the arches in your feet can make you slightly shorter as well. I guess I would. But yeah, I suppose every little counts, especially in my case where I'm not very tall to start with.
You can just wear heels when you're 80, it's fine.
Yeah. I feel like if your risk of falls is already high, you don't want to be tottering around in heels. But anyway, so can anything be done to stop your height loss?
I guess healthy lifestyle is probably the main thing.
Yeah, pretty much. So to some extent, it's out of your control because genetics plays a big role, as it seems to do in most things. And also stuff like how much bone you built when you were young, like as a child, your bone development.
Okay.
So, but things that you can do to improve your height, maintain your height, I suppose.
Yeah, you can't get taller.
No. Doing weight-bearing exercises, like running, jumping, or strength training, as opposed to something like swimming that doesn't put much pressure on your bones.
Is that because it improves bone density?
So it signals to your body to strengthen your bones, and that causes new cells to be added to your bones, and then so your bones are stronger, and then you're less likely to get the compression of your vertebrae.
So is that like strength training in early life, or like throughout life, even in older age?
Throughout life. So there was a Belgian study published where they found that people who did moderate aerobic exercise throughout their lives shrank less than those who were sedentary all their lives, or who stopped exercising after age 40.
Okay.
So exercise all the time until you're 40, and then you stop, you still shrink. But if you keep going through your life, then you've got some protection. Another healthy lifestyle factor is diet, especially making sure you get enough calcium and vitamin D. Yeah. And they kind of work together because the vitamin D helps your body to absorb the calcium. Yeah, so that's sort of things like dairy, spinach, kale, soybeans, and
kale.
Various certain types of fish as well.
No thanks. And going outside, I guess.
Yep.
Get that vitamin D.
And then also I think sometimes they recommend supplements, especially for like postmenopausal women, because they're mostly at risk of like osteoporosis and losing bone condition.
Okay.
And then another factor is not drinking too much alcohol and not smoking.
That healthy.
Yeah, because smoking damages your bones and can lower the amount of estrogen in your body, while alcohol can make it harder for your body to use the calcium that you consume.
Yeah, makes sense. How about living forever? So, straight answer, sorry guys, is no. The better answer is not right now. This is such a huge topic, it could be a podcast series of its own, but I'm going to try and condense what I've seen down for you guys. So, what do you think is the oldest someone has ever lived to?
Probably like around 120. I feel like the oldest person alive at the moment is probably it's something like 112 or something.
Okay, yeah, so the oldest known persons lived to 122. They were born in 1875 and only died, I can't do the math, but 1997.
Wow.
Although there is strong evidence that someone has lived to 146, but it's hard to be sure because he is Indonesian and they only started recording births in 1900.
Okay, so maybe they just
There's no record of
got
it,
his dates wrong.
Yeah.
I heard the story recently about these two men who were the world's oldest man, but they got born on the same day, so they're like both the same age. But then they always write each other a birthday card.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's really sweet.
So this may not be living forever, but tips for a long, and these are taken from interviews from these extremely old people, is to have a positive outlook on life.
Yeah.
Remain active throughout life. Have a healthy lifestyle. They all have strong connections to their family and religion. And there is, of course, the genetic component. Children of parents who have lived for a long time also live for a long time as well. So I want to be very clear here. They don't have genes that make them live longer. They just have genes that protect them against age-related diseases.
Or I suppose don't have genetic mutations that predispose them to the aging diseases.
Yeah. And I would imagine a huge amount of luck as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you get hit by a bus, then you're not that's gonna ruin your plans, however good your genetics are.
Avoid, to survive through World War One, World War Two. But this is just living a long time, not living forever. So, potential ways that we could live forever. We're going into sci-fi now, but we're talking maybe 10, 20 years in the future for some of these things. Firstly, you could swap out your dying body parts. I see on the news almost every other day, like, X body part has been lab grown. Mm-hmm, hearts, liver, that sort of stuff. So you could just kind of replace all the dying organs until you've got basically a whole new body.
Maybe they could make these lab-grown ones a bit more robust as well. Like you could get a special drinking edition liver.
Just twice the size. You could live inside an android body, so live inside a robot, while your sort of body is put into cryosleep or some sort of stasis chamber. So
keep your body alive.
Just enough so you have brain activity.
But control an external robot.
Exactly.
To go back. That's an interesting idea.
I think there's a movie with Bruce Willis in it. I can't remember what it's called, which is exactly that. Or on
Black Mirror?
Yeah, Black Mirror. You could live inside a virtual world.
Yeah.
So, but really that's just the brain living and everything else is not. Genetic engineering could be another way to live forever. So we could alter our existing genes that cause us to age and change them or copy ones from animals that can live for a very long time. Some examples I have are naked mole rats. I love these guys. They look like a ball sack, but they are amazing. It's
difficult to say that naked mole rats don't age when they're born looking like they're so old. They're so wrinkly.
Yeah, they are. You should look at some pictures if you have some time. So they live to 30 years old when sort of rodent their size should only live to 6.
Wow.
That's 5 times longer than you would expect them to live. And the actual causes of death are somewhat unknown in a lab. Sure, they've
never kept one in the lab for 30 years?
They kind of just seem to just suddenly die.
No.
It was unclear. Every article I read was just no one really knows how they die in the lab.
No.
Obviously, in the wild, they can get eaten, die of starvation. But they can kind of hit the 30-year-old and then they kind of just die.
That would be really annoying as an experiment if you'd been keeping them for 30 years and then you didn't have a clear conclusion at the end of it.
Yeah. The reason behind why they think they live forever is there's a set of proteins that aid in cell repair and prevent cell overgrowth, which is cancer causing stuff. But what if we could take these genes and put them into our own genome?
Could be interesting.
Could be a way to live a lot longer, prevent any cancer and prevent aging.
Would you trade
I know what you're going to say.
Living a long time for looking like a ball sack for your whole life.
I don't know. I guess when I get to like 80, I'll look like a ball sack anyway. You've got that to look forward to.
Right.
I don't know. That's a hard one. I can't answer that one. There's also there's a bunch of other animals that seem to either live forever or a very, very long time. There's the immortal jellyfish.
Oh, these are the ones that cycle through the life stages and then they go back to being little babies again.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Would you do that? That would be pretty handy. Can you imagine just sort of like getting to a certain age and then being like, okay, I'm done with this age now. I'm going to be a baby again.
It's like a reincarnation, but without the actual dying part.
Yeah.
But jellyfish don't have brains, do they? So it's not like they would remember anything they learned. I mean, what would you learn as a jellyfish, though? Floating around, Now I'm a little baby again.
Other animals that live for a really long time, there's lobsters.
Yeah, unless you eat them.
Yeah. Sturdy turtles.
Are they actually called sturdy turtles?
And then there's tough whales.
Tough whales? I've not heard of tough whales and sturdy
I think there's
turtles.
one that's been said to live for like 200 years or something.
Of whales?
Yeah.
There's sharks. The deep water sharks live a long time as well, don't they? There's like 300-year-old sharks.
The issue is, right, it's so hard to study these animals because they outlive humans. They have been around longer than modern science.
Yeah.
They don't have like rings like a tree.
What if you cut a whale in half to check if it's got rings? Yeah. Well, that'd be a bit sad, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So basically, you just take the whatever genes or set of genes these animals have and put them in your own genome.
But do you think it would work in a human though, or they'd get all messed up? And...
I'm saying it like it's very easy, like you just copy and paste, but that is not the case. There's promoters, so many other interactions in your body that you just can't count for. But maybe one day it might be possible.
And then you can be a sturdy, tough human.
Another way to live forever, kind of already touched on this, is just upload your body, your brain to a computer. The way they think they'll do this is you create effectively a virtual brain. Someone will map out the entire brain and how it works, computerize it, and then you just copy your brain onto the computer.
I feel like social media is kind of already doing this, isn't it? It kind of does already collect a lot of information about you and your preferences and stuff. And I feel like we were referring to Black Mirror a lot, but there was that episode where they uploaded all the woman's husband's data into like a robot that looked like him.
Yeah, that's freaky.
It's all those things that seem like a great idea, and then you're like, nope, by the end of the episode.
You get stuck inside a teddy bear.
Oh yeah, that was a pretty rough one as well.
Final potential way of living forever is cloning. So once if we could effectively clone your body, and you've effectively then got a pre-built empty brain at birth, and you just copy stuff over. There's actually currently quite a lot of research going on into this sort of living forever malarkey, especially on the sort of like computational front.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine people would pay a lot for it. So.
Some people are already paying a lot for it. There are companies that are taking money from people and saying, we will have this capability in the future.
That's a bit putting your eggs in a basket that's not even exist yet.
Exactly. In a virtual basket.
Yeah.
Question. Would you want to live forever if you could? In any of these scenarios, you can take your choice.
No, I don't think so. Like, I think what makes life interesting is that you only do it once. And also, like, do you think it's ethical for people to be able to live forever?
Why would it be? What's your arguments for it not being ethical?
Because it would be expensive, right? People would want to make money off it. Yeah. So then only people that were insanely rich would be able to live forever. And then because they could live a long time, they would just accumulate more and more wealth. And then everyone else would then become poorer.
Okay, I can definitely see that situation happening. And there's definitely downsides. But then there'd have to be a set of rules. Like, obviously, if you live forever and you wanted offspring, the population is just going to grow so quickly.
Yeah. I just think that it would be one of those things that just favours rich people, and it would be difficult to enforce rules about it.
It would, yeah. What are you going to do? Kill me?
Yeah.
Death sentence.
I'll just turn into my larval state and grow again.
Exactly.
So I think this is a kind of topical search at the moment. Is it possible to not sweat? So I feel like a lot of people might be Googling this in the wake of Prince Andrew's fateful interview.
What did he say exactly?
So the prince admits having an involvement and a friendship with the late Jeffrey Epstein, but he denies having sex with a trafficked 17-year-old girl because she recalls that the prince was sweating profusely when they were dancing at a nightclub. But he said, because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at, and it was almost impossible for me to sweat. And it's only because I've done a number of things in the recent past that I'm starting to be able to do that again. So I'm afraid to say there's a medical condition that says I didn't do it.
So the argument for him not doing anything was because of basically a bad witness report almost from the woman.
Yeah, so I feel like it's a very dubious excuse / denial. Like, it's not him saying, I didn't have sex with this woman. Him saying, I can't sweat, which is a very absurd claim.
Yeah,
and we'll go into it a bit more in a minute. I don't want to dwell too long on the Prince Andrew thing.
Right. Let's move on.
So there is a real condition called anhydrosis, which means that you don't sweat properly.
Why did you get the easy word to say?
It's like sweating is an important bodily function, although people kind of can feel self-conscious about it and kind of wish they didn't. You need to be able to sweat because it's your body's way of cooling itself.
We wouldn't be here if we couldn't sweat.
Yeah.
It's because in the Stone Age or whatever, when we were first humans, we managed to catch our food by just running after it.
Yeah.
And other animals can't sweat, so they can't run as long. So praise be to sweating.
It probably helped communication as well, because you know how dogs pant?
Yeah.
It's because they can't sweat.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you were constantly panting, you probably wouldn't really be able to talk to anyone.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really talk to anyone I'm running, but...
Well, yeah, but the causes of anhydrosis are generally things like genetic conditions that you're born with. So conditions that affect the development of sweat glands, conditions that affect your metabolic system, conditions that affect connective tissues. So those are all things that affect your development genetically. So then your body's just not formed properly in order to allow it to be able to sweat.
I see.
But there are also other things like skin damage. So if you've had really bad burns, that can damage the sweat glands in the skin, or radiation therapy like you'd get for cancer. Or if your pores are really clogged, like if you've got psoriasis, that can reduce your sweating.
Okay.
And also conditions that cause nerve damage, because your skin, like the nerves in your skin, sense whether it's hot and then decide if it's going to sweat. And then also drugs such as morphine, botulinum toxin, which is in Botox, and some drugs used to treat psychosis. But anhydrosis is rarely a temporary condition. It's often, and it's very severe, especially in people who've got these developmental conditions, because it affects their whole body and they can't sweat. So maybe being charitable may be a plausible explanation for what Prince Andrew meant in his interview, was that adrenaline bursts can cause you to come out in a cold sweat.
Yeah.
So have you ever been in a time when you're scared or nervous and you've got a cold sweat?
Any time I go up and try and talk to more than 10 people, yes.
Yeah. So people who've become accustomed to working in a high-pressure situation, such as on the battlefield, may develop a tolerance to the effects of adrenaline surges. So you've got a general sense of imperturbability.
Okay, you get the hard word there.
Yeah, so that could maybe translate into other high-pressure situations. So you're just not sweating.
Like dancing.
Well, so the thing is, most temperature-related sweating is controlled by acetylcholine, like not by adrenaline. So the presence of adrenaline would have no effect on the function of your sweat glands when you're sweating because you're hot.
Okay. It's more like the fight or flight sort of situations.
Yeah, that's entirely what it is. I think it's even different like types of glands and everything.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So it certainly seems like a dubious explanation.
It's not even scientifically accurate.
Yeah, and then there's this other thing that's not quite related, but it is to do with sweat that I found really interesting, is that although the primary function of sweat is to reduce your body temperature, your sweat can also convey a person's emotional state.
Yeah.
So there was one study where the researchers collected sweat samples from people that were either in a frightened state or a neutral state I think they made them watch videos.
Okay.
So the people watching like horror movies were frightened, and the people just watching something like normal.
Friends or something.
Yeah, and then there were women who were exposed to the sweat samples, had to smell them or something, and then they did a word association task.
Okay.
And the women who were exposed to the sweat of the scared donors performed better than those who had the neutral sweat or the no sweat at all.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that they found it more attractive, oh, the scared one less attractive or something, but clearly
No,
that's
so
not it.
The fear-related cues in the sweat gave the women performing word association heightened awareness of their environment that allowed them to perform better on the tasks.
So you're just saying other people sweating can make you more aware?
Yeah, it kind of enhance your mental ability potentially because of
like that fight or flight situation again, and your body's getting ready to do something.
Yeah, so maybe when it's, feels really awkward going into an exam hall with loads of people, you actually need to be drinking up their fear to get that raging through your body.
I was more thinking you just let it out,
Yeah, just they're like, have some sweat, do better on this exam.
Forget to put the deodorant on in the morning.
Yeah, I thought that was really crazy.
That is amazing. All right, I'm never going to be ashamed of sweating again.
No, if anyone's ever like, you stink, you'll be like, you're welcome.
Yeah. Ever been so embarrassed by the amount of sweat you had in a situation? Well, have I got the solution for you? Or maybe I don't. Because is it possible to go back in time? And actually what we're talking about here is time travel, specifically going backwards in time.
I bet Prince Andrew wishes he could go backwards in time.
So the concept of time travel itself was made popular by H.G. Wells in his novel The Time Machine. I won't go into the physics of time travel because it would take a really long time, and also I don't understand it.
Just watch the movie Interstellar and also don't understand that movie, and then you'll know.
There's a lot of references to time travel, to be honest, in popular culture, which I'll get to. But most scientists agree that you can travel forward in time. This is by going close to black holes, traveling really fast, like near the speed of light. But most are not particularly sold on the idea of traveling backwards in time. Few reasons. One, you create a feedback loop. So think of a microphone next to a speaker. Effectively, it just gets louder and louder and louder because the sound matter, doing air quotes here, just keeps coming back on itself and effectively just explodes in that annoying screechy noise. 2, laws of physics, energy cannot be created or destroyed. By going back in time, you're effectively transporting your bodily energy, because all mass has energy, backwards in time and creating energy out of nothing, effectively.
Yeah.
And thirdly, paradoxes. Paradoxes do not exist in nature. What if you killed your grandfather? Would you be born? That is a paradox.
You fade, like in Back to the Future.
Well, basically, they don't think it's possible. The only way that scientists can really agree on, in terms of time travel going backwards being possible, is subscribing to the multiverse theory, where you basically travel to an alternate universe, and creating a feedback loop and creating a paradox is not a thing that will happen in a different universe. Spoilers ahead, this is what happens in Avengers Infinity War. And I believe Bruce Banner does a nice little explanation of why this is the only way it could actually work.
I do quite like the multiverse theory in that every time you do something or make a decision, a new universe branches off from that, because every time you make a decision or do something that really was a bummer, you're like, at least there's another universe where that didn't happen.
Personally, I don't like multiverse theory, at least in movies, because it makes everything seem inconsequential. It's like, well, that only happened in this one universe when there are billions and billions, infinite numbers before. So you're just like, whatever, I don't care. To be honest, I'm personally not a big fan in time travel in general, in movies and TV, just because it feels a bit like a cop-out. Apart from Doctor Who, to be honest, because they do a good job of getting around the issues, the whole timey-wimey stuff. You watched Doctor Who a lot more than I did. What's his reason for, doesn't he have, some sort of feeling that he shouldn't be there?
He specifically says, they didn't go back on their own timeline. And, if you go somewhere and mess up, you can't go back and try and fix it. Because I think that happens in an episode with Rose.
Doesn't really save her father or something?
She saves her father from being killed, but because that's quite a big... it was a defined point in time.
Yeah.
And then the knock-on effect of that would have changed too many things. So then that causes an issue. And obviously she herself is there as a baby as well. Yeah. And at one point she touches herself as a baby, and that's a big issue.
Yeah. I just generally like how Doctor Who handle time travel.
Yeah.
Have you got a favourite time travel story, book, movie, or anything?
The book Cloud Atlas I thought was quite interesting. I feel like the movie didn't do it justice, but the idea is that it's not even a central character, but it's people across different times over hundreds of years, but they're all the same soul that's been reincarnated into a new person. And the book sort of starts out, I don't know, in the 1700s, and then it goes into the future, and then it goes back again.
Yeah,
and
I remember
that's quite interesting.
Yeah, that was good.
Obviously, Back to the Future is solid. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it's just so cheesy you can't not enjoy it. I'm also quite a fan of a Groundhog Day scenario where you keep living the same day but you remember it. I think that's always quite fun.
You're right. What's that movie with Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow? That was actually really good.
They did an episode of it in Star Trek Discovery as well, the Groundhog Day thing.
A lot of these sci-fi TV shows always have at least one episode where something like that happens.
I think it's just fun.
It is.
It's a good larks type episode, I think.
It'd be really great to hear what your guys' favourite time travel story or theory even is. So you can send us your thoughts on Twitter. You can mention us at scpodcast_UK, or send us an email, searchcompletepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you.
And also, if you would want to go back in time to change something that's happened...
What would it be?
Yeah, what would it be? And we won't read it out on air unless you want us to.
Do you have a moment? Put you on the spot now.
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like sometimes things happen and they're so embarrassing, you're like, oh God, but then in the end of the day, it doesn't really...
You can't even remember what any of them are now, can you?
Yeah, well, one piece of advice was, if you ever feel so embarrassed about something, try and think of something really embarrassing that someone else has done, because it's really hard to think of anything. So then probably that means that no one can think of the thing that you did.
So for all you people searching, is it possible to go back in time?
You probably don't need to.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, it is possible to be allergic to water, and it is possible to not sweat, both of which are huge bummers, but maybe in combination they would slightly relieve each other. Travelling forwards in time is a possibility, but maybe not backwards. Living forever is probably on the horizon. I'm sure Elon Musk's got his fingers in a few pies.
Definitely. I'm Doug.
And I'm Yvette. Thanks for listening.